Hi, it's Scott, ROCKFILE, back with another podcast review for you. This is my second one for Moon Knight, the limited series from Marvel. When it debuted in 2022, I did a podcast, so if you want to go check out my review and my first thoughts on this miniseries, you could check it out. It's a previous episode. If it was good on that YouTube thing, I could go, click right here for this previous, anyway. I've got 600 of those up there, but if you just search Moon Knight in my podcast, it'll come up. So I recently picked it up on 4K, and it gave me an opportunity to watch it again on Blu-ray with full Dolby Atmos and full HDR, and it was pretty impressive from a technical standpoint. But I also really fell in love with the show all over again. It's not my favorite of all of the Marvel shows, but I like it because it's so different. It's an origin story for a character that a lot of people aren't familiar with, and as it goes, it's different than your average origin story, because a lot of them are the same. They're an up-and-coming person of some kind, they get some kind of powers, and they get better through that. This is a little different. They're dealing with somebody with identity disorder, dissociative identity disorder, and the show was praised for how it handled it. Oscar Isaac did an amazing job playing somebody that has multiple personalities living in his head. The rest of the cast does a great job, and overall, I think the show is really well done. It goes a little off the rails in the last two episodes, but then again, it kind of needed to. We needed to get a full dose of the Moon Knight universe because Kevin Feige has said, now that we've introduced the character, we can expect to see him in movies and maybe his own movie one day, which I think would be great. Again, I think everybody in the show did great. It really shines on this new 4K release. So people haven't really made this big a deal that Disney, Marvel, is releasing their streaming shows on 4K and Blu-ray discs. In the UK, they get both in one box. Here in the United States, we have to choose. The Blu-rays are about $5 cheaper. Maybe $10 cheaper, depending on where you buy them. But all in all, for the series, they're a little pricey, but you're getting a nice steelbook case, you're getting the highest quality version of the episodes, and they throw some art cards in there. The one thing you don't get is digital copies. I guess they don't want to take anything away from their streaming. So I remember the show, I like the show, but it's not one I've revisited, and I don't have Disney Plus currently. So I haven't rewatched it in any way, shape, or form. But something compelled me to get it on 4K. Well, it was a review on Blu-ray.com where they gave it 5 out of 5 for video and audio, saying it was reference quality. Now, if you're not into the hobby and you want to know what reference quality is, that's about as good as it gets. Like, if you say a movie transfer on a 4K is reference quality, it's probably better than you saw it in the theater. This is exactly how the producers of said piece of art intended it. Reference quality means it just can't get any better. 5 out of 5. And I got to say, as somebody who has now watched the complete miniseries in 4K with HDR fully engaged with the Dolby Atmos in my new setup, it's impressive. Much more impressive than it was in streaming. As I've talked in previous podcasts, streaming is always going to be less than what you can get on a disc, because streaming is compressed. The audio is compressed, the video is compressed to make it fit down your little pipeline. We don't have the same on discs if they're authored correctly. Marvel, Disney, has done the right thing to put no more than 3 episodes on each disc. You can fit about 3 hours of 4K video on a disc without over-compressing it or doing anything to it. And they did. Plus, they've added some extras, 1080p extras on both discs. Now, one thing about the creation of the series I have to question, they put the making of on the first disc. It's a nearly hour-long documentary that's really well done. It's from Avengers Assembled. I guess it appeared on Disney+. And it really goes into all the aspects of making the show. It also goes into a lot of spoilers. I had already watched the show, so after I finished the first 3 episodes, I went ahead and watched this. But if I were somebody who were buying the Blu-rays or the 4Ks cold and I had never seen the show on Disney+, do not watch the extras on Disc 1, or you're going to get some spoilers for what happens on Disc 2. There's 3 episodes on Disc 1. There's 3 episodes on Disc 2. The extras on Disc 2 are a lot less. There's the gag reel and the outtakes and some other stuff. Egyptology. It's only about 6 or 7 minutes long, but it's really good. That's another thing I have to say about the show. You're fully steeped in Egyptian mythology and culture, but it doesn't beat you over the head like something like Miss Marvel did. I really didn't appreciate the Miss Marvel show. Granted, I'm probably not the target audience for a young teen getting into her superhero powers, but I just felt the whole thing felt forced. It felt a lot more forced than pretty much any of the other Marvel shows, in that it really was trying to show us some things and introduce us to some things. And some of the things, well, I wasn't really that. I found the family was kind of irritating, and some of the cultural aspects, it was interesting to see, but I just felt like we were getting beat over the head with it. Where in this show, unlike Miss Marvel that I was just talking about, in Moon Knight, we're steeped in it. It's everywhere you look, but it's like taken for granted, not beaten over the head, if you know what I mean. They just kind of introduce things, and you just kind of have to take them. When they get to the part where one of the gods is a talking hippo, you're kind of fully invested in this whole Egypt did things a little bit differently. One of the directors, Mohammed Diab, is Egyptian and wanted to make sure that they got real Egypt into the show. They also brought in two of my favorite directors, Benson and Moorhead. These guys have directed movies like Spring and The Endless. They were brought in to help with this, and then they were brought in to basically take over the second season of Loki, which I think they knocked it out of the park. They're two very interesting directors that I'd never thought I would see in the MCU, and here they are doing quite a few things in the MCU. That's amazing, because now they're working on the new Daredevil show that's coming out next year. But they were part of what makes the show weirder than the others. First, you have a main character who has multiple personalities, and he's dealing with that. You also have all this Egyptian mythology. And then you have Ethan Hawke playing this. He's a villain, but the best villains have the best intentions. He's trying to make the world a better place. And I think he's fabulous in the role. That they got Oscar Isaac and Ethan Hawke in the same show. Well, the budget was almost $150 million for this 6-episode miniseries. A lot of movies don't have anywhere near that budget. It's all up on the screen. Filmed on location in Hungary, Jordan, Slovenia, and my hometown of Atlanta, Georgia, where part of the Marvel headquarters is. A lot of the Marvel stuff was filmed in Atlanta, if you didn't know. They've got their own studio there now. So watching it in 4K with the Dolby Atmos, blown away, completely blown away from the first episode. And granted, I only picked it up because one of the reviewers I like said it was reference quality, but it is. To give you an example of how it's better than the streaming service, it looks good on Disney Plus. I watch the whole thing, and I watch a lot of streaming content, a lot more than I actually let on. But most streaming content looks flat. Even the 4K HDR stuff doesn't look like it does in almost three-dimensional depth on disc. It's just pushing a lot more bits, a lot more bandwidth, a lot more information for the picture, for the HDR, for the depth, for the blacks, for the whatevers. There's just more coming off that disc than ever comes down the pipeline of your internet connection or your cable. And so the sound, you're just enveloped. In certain aspects, it's just music and ambience. Other times, it's the effects. I wouldn't say it's the most active Dolby Atmos mix, but there was a lot of height use where you need them. Explosions welling up and rolling into the sky, or something flying overhead. When Moon Knight starts to use some of his, batarang type weapons, they're flying all over the surround sound. It's quite tasty. But there was a scene early on. Oscar Isaac's character goes into a plaza where he basically talks to a gold-painted statue. It's a mime, but he's frozen, and he's in the show a little bit. And in the background behind them, and this is all taking place at night, there is someone juggling torches. There is a fire juggler standing behind them. Now, I remember this scene specifically because, I have a friend who fire juggles, and anytime I see that in a show or whatever, I look at it and go, are they good or not? But other than that, it was just it kind of looked like a painting when they first come up upon that scene. It's really a nicely composed cinematic shot. But on 4K Blu-ray, there was a depth there, I guess because of the HDR, the additional colors, the lot more bandwidth gave it, just more definition in the darks and the blacks and the shadows. And then these flames. This juggler was in the dark, and these flames are kind of jumping out with specular highlights. It made the whole scene look a little more three-dimensional, a little more vivid, a little more real, a little more like actual reality. And that's what we get with these very high-resolution screens and this HDR content. It looks amazing. Now, unfortunately, no Dolby Vision is used. It only has HDR10. I recently watched something that had HDR10 Plus that looked really good. Anyway, some of us video snobs will turn up our nose if something doesn't have Dolby Vision. But I got to tell you, the purples, especially with the powers of Ethan Hawke, they really popped. Like those flames with the fire juggler, really, HDR was just fine, even though I wish Disney or whoever's made the decision to not put Dolby Vision when it's on the streaming channel, not put it on the disc, doesn't make any sense. They did put the Dolby Atmos, though, and the soundtrack is incredible. So you get these postcards with it. They're nice. And it comes in a steelbook. There's really no way to get it any other way. It's the same thing they did with the first volley of shows. It's a beautiful steelbook. Black and white, giant picture of him, a lot of Egyptian stuff, the smaller picture of the other version of Moon Knight that he plays with gold highlights, little gold things here and there and some gold hieroglyphs on the back. It's a really nice package. Looks really good on the shelf and has a 1 in the corner, just like Loki does, so maybe there will be a season 2. I haven't gotten WandaVision. I can't tell you if there's a 1. I guess there probably is. This is one of the shows I would own because, well, one of the things I was going to talk about is I'm not buying many shows anymore. Long shows just don't have a lot of replay value for me. I did win a copy of the entire 15-season run of Supernatural, and over time, I go back through it. You know, I'm rewatching it. I think I'm in season 5 at the moment. I'll watch an episode here and then not watch it for a few weeks and watch an episode here or there, that kind of thing. It's nice to have that to be able to do it. But with a lot of other shows, I've gotten them cheaply from HamiltonBook.com or other places just so I could check them out. But now they'll sit on the shelf. I don't know that I'll rewatch a lot of them. Some shows are classics, but the shorter ones, Orphan Black is a really good one. I really enjoy and like to get the rest of that, but still it went on for like 5 seasons. So these miniseries are turning me around on owning some of this stuff because it was real easy to watch this roughly about 6-hour series. I tried to watch an episode here or there, but by the end I kind of semi-binge watched the last 2 and got through it quicker than I planned to do it. Same thing with Loki. They're just really good shows, and they're such bite-sized increments. It's not drawn out too much. You don't get lost in the middle like a long show. When you get to 10, 12, or like they used to, 26 episodes, in the middle of some of these storytelling series, you'd get a little lost in there. But with these, they don't really have time. And I honestly wish they had spent as much time later in the show on the Moon Knight character and such than as they did in getting us into it all. Like the first episode, it takes a while, not so much to get going, but they're introducing a lot of concepts, a lot of things that they will play out and flesh out throughout the rest of the show. Episode 2 gives you more to chew on, 3, and then things go bonkers, there on 4, 5, and 6. I do wish we had a little more Moon Knight action, but the action we do is great. It's very much like the comic. I didn't read a whole lot of Moon Knight, but he was always one of my favorite characters. I just love the look. And they really pulled it off, because if you look at Moon Knight and his different incarnations over the years, the suit was smooth a lot of times, and it looks much more, I don't want to say Egyptian because it's kind of stereotypical, but it does. It looks like wraps. It looks like old armor, like almost an Assassin's Creed kind of thing. I think they really did good with the look. I think they really did good with the character, as little as I know about Moon Knight and what they were trying to achieve. And now that we have this full introduction, Moon Knight, I would love to see Oscar Isaac appear in different movies. I think that'd be fabulous. So we'll see what happens. But I highly recommend picking this up. This is one of the ones like Loki that I can say it's a unique piece of entertainment. It's completely well done. I didn't felt like I was being beat over the head by any kind of agendas or anything else. I think they were trying to tell a Moon Knight story and give us something a little different in a streaming show. And I think that's great. I don't know about you, but I'm tired of seeing the same old, same old. Moon Knight was something completely different. And what a package. I know it's about $45, but it's worth picking up in 4K if you have the system to do it justice. It really looks and sounds amazing. Reference quality for a TV show. Native 4K, HDR10, and Dolby Atmos. It's pretty amazing. A $150 million TV show. It looks every bit of it, sounds every bit of it. Pick it up. Highly recommended. We'll be talking about some other movies. I've picked up some lower budget things that we'll talk about, like that Lair of the White Worm if you missed my last podcast. More reviews are coming. Check out my links below. Lots of stuff to talk about. So thank you for being a part of it. I'm Scott. I'm ROCKFILE. Have a spectacular day. Thanks for listening.